Hey everybody, this is Matt Boggs, and I am thrilled to bring you this video. So stoked because I'm bringing you one of my dearest mentors, a man who has had a profound impact in my life personally, my life professionally, and I'm able to bring him to you today. This man, just to give you some background on this man has his PhD from Stanford, very smart individual, but he has a massive heart as well. He is one of the best-selling relationship authors on the planet. He's written over 40 books, many of them New York Times bestsellers. And he's a man who walks the talk because he's been married to the love of his life for many, many decades. They just celebrated 40 years of being together. And I'm blessed to say that this man and his wife married myself and my wife when we got married, and so helped catalyze us onto our amazing relationship journey. And he is out right now with a brand new book called Conscious Luck. And so I wanted to bring this to you to give you ideas and inspiration and insight on how you can change your luck in relationships and change your luck in love. So Gay, thanks so much for being with me. So Gay, coming up with this idea, Conscious Luck, how did this idea come to you?
Well, the idea came to me when I was 14 years old. And I was in a movie theater and I was sitting next to a kid named Danny. And there was about 250 people in the movie theater. And for some reason, they're having a special drawing for 3 prizes. And the top prize was a wristwatch. So it was a pretty good thing. And before they had the drawing, they put everybody's name in a goldfish bowl. And before they had the drawing, Danny leaned over to me and said, "Watch this, I'm going to win." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Just watch." They had the drawing. 3rd prize went to somebody. 2nd prize went to somebody. 1st prize, Danny. And I was flabbergasted. "How in the world did you do that?" And he said, "I always win drawings and things like that since I changed my mind." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, I realized there were some people in the world that were lucky and some that weren't. And I just decided to make up my mind one day and become a lucky person." Well, little did I know, you probably remember that great quotation from William James, the father of American psychology, where he said something about changing the fact that you could change your mind and change the outer circumstances of your life was the greatest achievement or discovery of his time, which was basically the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first introduction. And so I decided to do that. And I kind of did that on the spot. I said, okay, from this day forth, I choose to be lucky. Now, in the book, I show you some really better ways to do it. But, I was 14 years old at the time. So I just said, basically, okay, I'm going to change my mind. Immediately after that, a couple of days later, I was in a magazine shop where they also had a coin collecting section over in the corner, and I was an avid coin collector, so I often went in to browse the magazines and talk to the guy who ran the coin department. And that particular day, there was an elderly gentleman with a big satchel standing over in the coin collector section talking to the owner, and so I didn't go over there and bother them, but I kept browsing, and apparently the man left because I went outside to go to the movies. There was a Tarzan movie on that I wanted to see. I don't know if you've ever remembered Tarzan movies,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah. And so my grandmother loved Tarzan movies, so I could always count on her to take me to a Tarzan movie. But anyway, I walked out of the magazine shop, and there sitting next to a parking meter was the guy's satchel. And I looked at it and I looked around. There was not a soul on the street. And I looked back in the shop and I realized in a split second, oh, he must have stopped to put a coin in the meter and then walked off without his satchel. I didn't know what was in the satchel. So I just picked it up and I went back and I said to Ned, "Hey, was that the gentleman's that was just in here?" And Ned said, "Oh my God, where'd you find that?" And I said, "Well, it was out on the street next to the parking meter." And I explained what I thought had happened. Well, it turned out to be exactly what the guy happened, but he hadn't realized it until he got up into a restaurant with his wife, and they were having lunch when they discovered that the thing was missing. And so he locked down the restaurant and called the police. So anyway, I was oblivious to all this because I went off to the Tarzan movie. Didn't see any of this drama happening. When
With the satchel?
No, I left it with Ned.
Okay, you left it with
Oh
Nick.
yeah,
Got
I said, here, it's obviously the guys. And he said, oh, because I later found that it had thousands of dollars worth of valuable coins in it. It was one of the guys' coin collections. So, and he was a very wealthy man. So anyway, to compress the story, I came out of the movie theater and went back to the magazine shop again to wait for my mom to get off work, and she was going to give us a lift home. And I walked into the magazine shop, and Ned said, "Where have you been?" And we looked all over for you. And I said, "I went to the movie theater. Why?" And he explained what had happened. And he said, the guy wanted to give you a big coin collection out of his satchel as a thank you present, but we couldn't find you. So a couple of weeks later, I received a package from Lakeland, Florida, where this gentleman lived. And in that package was a complete collection of Buffalo nickels, which was kind of my specialty at the time. And so, I mean, this was a collection that was well out of my price range, and it was a collection of perfect examples of all of the Buffalo nickels ever made. So it was a complete collection. I mean, it was mind-boggling to a kid like me because, I was trading pennies for things that was worth 75 cents maybe and things like that. That was my deal. I never went over $1 in my coin collection. And so to have suddenly this complete collection, which was probably worth at the time $35 or $40 at a time when gas cost $0.25 a gallon. So anyway, that was the moment for me where I said, wow, you can change your mind and then have things start happening for you. In the book, we lay out 8 different paths, some of which involve mental things, some of which involve emotional and body and things like that, but 8 different ways you can turn on your luck factor.
So I am a big believer also in how your vibration is the attraction point, that you are creating your reality. And so first of all, I think it's important that we define luck. How are you defining luck in terms of this book?
The simple definition I use is always being in the right place at the right time for the perfect thing to happen.
I love that definition. The right place at the right time for the perfect thing to happen.
Yeah, like for example, I got out my calculator one time and I realized I'd made more money in my career in 3 days of being at the right place at the right time in regard to the stock market than I'd made on all my book royalties altogether. Now, part of investing in the stock market is savvy, but a good bit of it is luck when you do it. And let me just give you an example. 25 years ago, at the beginning of the dot-com era, I walked into my office and there was my wife, Katie, talking to a 27-year-old kid, I found out, with braces on his teeth and a Hawaiian shirt on and flip-flops. I was new to California at the time. I didn't know that sometimes stockbrokers wore Hawaiian shirts and flip-flops, And so this kid with braces on his teeth was trying to sell my wife a startup stock called software.com that made a little thing that made the internet, that made email go faster, a little thing that was just an algorithm. It wasn't even a thing. It was a mathematical computation that made email go faster. And he wanted us to invest $30,000 in this. And he was also talking to Katie's parents about it because he was their stockbroker. And so I was just in the office going to be there for 5 minutes. And so I had time to listen to the thing, and I said, okay, the guy's young and everything, and $30,000 is not chicken feed, but I said to my wife, if you feel good about it, go ahead and do it, because I've got an appointment I've got to get to. I think I was in the middle of getting some dental work done. So I said, great, you just make your decision, and I hauled out the door. A couple of years later, after the dot-com era exploded, that same 29-year-old, now he didn't have his braces on his teeth, brings back a check for $850,000. And so being in the right place at the right time, being lucky is a lot easier than being good. I think we ought to do both. But if I had to pick one, I know which one I would take.
Yes. So how does one who has had a history of things not working out? So the person who has had the investment that went flat, the person who feels like they're unlucky in love and they constantly are attracting the type of people who leave them or lie or aren't good partners, or the person that they just never can feel like they get a break in business. One of the hardest things to do is to think truth in the presence of opposing facts. In other terms, think about possibilities and what you would love in the presence of a history of things not working out. So how does that person begin the process of changing their luck, so to speak?
It's a great question. And the answer to that is applies to every important part of self-change. Every change project in yourself has to begin with a moment of sincere commitment. You know, think of the commitment, the power of a commitment. Like, for example, I have a close friend of mine that has 19 years of sobriety and changed his life through 12-step groups. And he talks about this incredible moment of his life where for the first time he stood up in front of a group of people and said, "Hello, my name's John and I'm an alcoholic." And the commitment he made was not to drink that day. Okay. And
Right.
that day turned into a second day. And now 19 years later, he's collected a whole bunch of those commitments for one day. And the way I say it is commitment starts you, but then you've got to get good at recommitment because everybody's going to slip a little bit sometimes.
I think that's the key word right there. Absolutely, is the recommitment. Yes.
Well, it's important to build that in because if you think about it, if you're on an airplane heading for Hawaii, it's run by an automatic pilot, and the automatic pilot says we're drifting a little bit this way, let's correct, and then it says we're drifting a little bit this way, let's correct, and it gets all the way to Honolulu by being wrong most of the time because it has the power to reconnect and get back to calibration again and get back on track. But the actual amount of time it spends on track is minuscule. So we just, you know, let's build that in and love ourselves equally when we drift as when we come back again. But the coming back, it's just like when my daughter was learning to ride horseback. She was about maybe 6 years old at the time, I think. And I remember standing there at the stables the first day, and she actually fell off. And I went, you know, freaked out. But the trainer, this really wonderful woman trainer, it just kind of picked her up off the ground, made sure she was okay, and put her right back on the horse. And so it's the getting back on the horse again, because like here's a time we're in at the moment, and we'll probably be in lots of times where the usual solutions to things aren't working. We have to invent ourselves anew. And it's through these kind of trying times that reveal what we really are and who we really are. And I think that this is an ideal time for us to take responsibility for creating our own luck. That's the reason I'm so happy about the book, that it comes out at this time, even though it's a very stressful time.
I want to echo and underscore what you're saying, because I've noticed that there's really two experiences or two types of responses that people are having right now to what's going on in the world. And one is those who just kind of want to numb out. They just want to wait it out. They just want to go passive. They'll binge on Netflix. They'll put their head in the sand, so to speak, and they just want to wait this thing out. And there's the other group that don't wait, but they create. They say, you know what, this is happening at this time in this moment, and there's an opportunity in this, and I'm going to create something. I'm going to go deep. I'm going to work on myself in this moment. We're all quarantining anyway. What a better time there is than to work on myself, than to grow myself and to actually create something that I would love. And the objection person says, well, you can't create anything because you're all quarantined. And then you see all people creating all kinds of stuff right now in terms of businesses and in terms of experiences and in terms of personal growth. So I'm really, really grateful that your book is coming out right now, because I think there's no better time for people to learn how to consciously create, being at the right place at the right time for something extraordinary to happen. So for the person who has felt like they're always at the wrong place at the wrong time, what is going on in that person that then this book can help solve?
Great question. Well, in my earlier book, The Big Leap, one thing I point out is that we all carry around within us a tendency to do what I call have the upper limit problem. We start to succeed and then create some drama that usually brings us back down to where we were before. So in solving that problem and helping people open up to their genius zone inside, one thing we discovered is it's mostly a barrier of fear. A barrier of fear that people have to get through in order to really make things work in their life. And fortunately, there are only a handful of fears. But what I think what people really need to know is that fear comes in 4 flavors. We call them the 4 F's around here. When people get scared, one thing they do is they start arguments and hassle with each other. That's the fight part of fight or flight. Some people pull back and run and hide. That's the flee part. So some people, when they get scared, fight, and some people flee. But also there are 2 other F's. There's freeze and faint. And there are some people that kind of go when they're scared. They can't think straight. They kind of get frozen up. Their muscles get tight. They kind of freeze. And you see this in animals too, with a, you know, if a mouse gets scared, something like that. So it's kind of a wired in thing. Some people also faint, and I don't mean keel over faint, but get spacey in their heads. I mean, sometimes people keel over and faint when they get scared, but most of us just, if we're fainty type people, we get a little spacey in the head, or we get an urge to lie down and watch an old episode of Star Trek, or, you know, kind of get spacey, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's the faint part. So fight, flee, freeze, faint are the ways fear shows up. So it's important, I think, for most people to get a flavor of which thing they do in response to fear. And so from that standpoint, then, as you know more about it, realize that you're only a few breaths away from chasing the fear out of your body and replacing it with excitement and creativity. It only takes, actually, you can look this up scientifically, it only takes about 3 deep, easy breaths to begin to change the stress chemistry in your body, to kind of chase the stress out of your body. So, you know, taking a few deep breaths when you feel scared, like one of my mentors, Fritz Perls, used to say, fear is excitement without the breath. If you remember to breathe, you can turn your fear into excitement. I also say that, especially after 40, as you get up into your 50s, 60s, 70s, every breath you take is a choice between stagnation and creativity. Stagnation or creativity. Pick one. And so I'm big on the creativity route, because, you know, at my age now, I feel wildly more creative than I did 10 years ago. And then I felt wildly more creative than I did 10 years before that. So I think it's possible. I'm sure we all have an expiration date on that, but I haven't found mine yet. And I'm really eager in exploring it even more every day.
That's inspiring. I love that about you. And you're a walking demonstration of that in creating not only the other things you're creating, but good work like this. So I just want to say, for those watching right now, I was talking to Gay saying, where's the best place to pick up this book? And the best place to go is actually consciousluck.com. Consciousluck.com. Because as you and I were discussing this, the book helps you rewire, you know, as we dealing with fear. While you know, here's what's fascinating. Cognitively, it's a very simple concept. You got the 4 F's, okay, and I'm going to feel these. But when you're in it and it's all consuming and you feel paralyzed, or you feel, I had to train myself to overcome panic attacks that I was having around teaching and around speaking. It was even after I had become a teacher and a speaker. And that was one of the most difficult things I ever did, was help retrain my nervous system to overcome that. And so what I love about what you teach in this book is you're talking about 4 There are 4 practices that you do, and then 4 things that you're doing internally to help you claim your conscious luck, which is helping you overcome the fear of whatever's holding you back from that conscious luck. So if that appeals to you watching right now, go to consciousluck.com, get this book, read this book. It will absolutely change your life. So as far as your experience with conscious luck, or what you feel would be inspiring for readers to hear about what's possible for them as far as their transformation, what would you say to that, Gay?
Well, what's possible is actually the experience of being in the right place at the right time. One thing I do when I teach this material, like in our seminars and that kind of thing, I'll teach them a concept before lunch, and then we'll have a collection of stories when they come back from lunch about what they saw happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And so I get to hear these real life stories of people making a shift here and here, and then having things change out there in their lives. And just to give you one quick example from my own experience, when I was working on this big time, I had this experience going through an airport. I was at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. Probably many people have been there. It's a huge airport, and you kind of have to take a train from one end to the other of it. And my flight was completely at the other end. And so I was rushing along, and I saw on the board that the plane had closed. And so I was huffing and puffing up the street, and I decided, okay, I just took a few breaths and went on up to the podium. And there was a man at the podium who was throwing a major, really ugly temper tantrum, and was yelling at the poor clerk there and everything. And he was saying, "You must put me on that flight. I have a ticket in first class, and my name is Humphrey T. Slocum III, and you will not treat me like this, and I'm going to sue you for every dollar you have."
Always the third. It's always the third.
Yeah. And so anyway, he walked on off back up the corridor, kind of, shaking his fist and everything. And so I stepped up there to the person, and I just made contact. I said, "Boy, kind of a tough day, huh?" And, the person said, "Oh, you wouldn't believe it, And so we had a little moment of rapport. And so I just stood there, and all of a sudden a flight attendant came out the jetway and up across the waiting area, and came chugging up to the person and had a whispered conversation in the clerk's ear. It turned out they'd miscounted, and they had one seat in first class. And I saw the clerk do the following thing. She looked up the concourse to see the disappearing figure of Humphrey T. Slocum III. And then she said, she looked at me and she said, "We'll put you right on, sir, and thank you, Dr. Hendricks." And so I go from not being able to get on the plane to sitting in first class just by being in the right place at the right time. And I want to hear stories from people like that. That's why we have a mechanism on Facebook and everything like that for people to tell us their conscious luck stories that begin to happen, because I love to hear that. By the way, I wanted to mention, when you go to consciousluck.com, you can buy the book from any of your usual places like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and things like that. But the cool thing that you get there is that you get to download these special meditations, these 3-minute morning and evening meditations that amplify what's in the book.
So that's cool. So I get a couple of meditations that I can listen to that then help, because I'm a big believer in meditation and the power of accessing the subconscious mind. So you've got 2 meditations. I would listen to them when, in the morning and at night?
Yes, one in the morning and one in the evening. And they're both really tailored down to the absolute essential 3 minutes of instruction, because we found that just about everybody can manage 3 minutes, Like if you try to get people to do a 10 or 20-minute thing at first, it's a little hard. But I really implore everybody that's watching and listening to this to set aside those 3 minutes. Read the book too, of course, but it'll amplify, and kind of like a creativity amplifier, I think of it as. So I really want you to take advantage of that if you possibly can.
There have been so many times in my life where I feel like I've gone through phases of being at the right place at the right time, and then other phases where it felt like I was just trudging through the sludge of the universe, if you will, like just everything I was trying felt like it wasn't working out. And I can remember in those moments thinking, what was different? What was I doing when things seemed to feel like they were flowing and just so much easier? And for everyone watching, you probably have that same experience where there were times when things were just clicking and easy, and it comes together so much faster. Things come out of the blue. Like, you can go up to for me, one of those stories is we wanted to go see this movie, and it was a brand new movie, and it was sold out everywhere. But my nephew and I were committed to going, and we were staying positive, and my brother was with us, and he was like, you guys, we ain't getting into this movie. It's sold out everywhere. And so we went to one movie theater, and it was sold out. And I said, oh, there's another showing at 5 miles down at this other movie theater. Let's go. We can make it. My brother's like, we're wasting our time. We're not going to get into this movie theater. And I was saying, stay positive. There's a way. There's a possibility we can all get into this movie theater. And we show up, and I asked my brother to get out. I say, hey, jump out of the car. Go see if there's tickets. So he runs out, waits in line, gets there. I say, hey, can we get into the 7 o'clock showing? And the ticket taker was saying, nah, it's completely sold out. And the woman who was standing next to my brother heard my brother ask for tickets to this movie. And she goes, oh, hey, you know what? I just got a text from my husband. Do you want to go see that movie? They're saying it's all sold out. I've got a couple tickets for you and your son to go to this movie if you want. And my brother was like, well, actually, there's 3 of us, because he wanted to be right. He wanted to be right that it was not going to work. And he goes, oh, there's 3 of us. My brother's in the car. And she was like, no, I actually have 3 right here if you want to go. And he was like, oh my gosh. And so, there's those moments when it all just clicks and it's working together, and how much life becomes easier when you're at the right place in the right time. But knowing how to create that, knowing how to actually invite more of that into your life is a tremendous skill. And so I really appreciate you for writing this book, because what I hear you saying is that's exactly what this book does.
Exactly. And just to get it started right now, even before you get to the book, everybody just take a moment and consider making a commitment to being luckier today than you were yesterday. And then tomorrow, again, make a commitment to being luckier today than I was the day before. That's just what I started doing 30, 40 years ago, and I just keep amplifying it every day of my life.
So luckier today than I was yesterday, luckier today than I was yesterday. And then what do you do with the days where you feel like you're trudging and sledging?
Well, yeah. It's like that great lyric from the Grateful Dead song, forget the name of it right now, Truckin' or something like that. It says, sometimes the light's all shining on me, other times I can barely see. Well, just like the sun comes up in the morning and goes down in the evening, what's really happening is the earth is rolling over. Sun's not going anywhere.
Right.
And we need to realize that to take our attention out from the outside and put it on the inside and realize, what do I do to optimize my flow inside? What do I need? What shifts do I need to make? What beliefs do I need to let go of to really optimize my flow and the flow of connection with other people? And I think, well, one of the best images from the book is there's a professor at Stanford who does research on conscious luck named Tina Selig, and Dr. Tina Selig. And she says from her research, luck is like the wind. It's always there, but some people know how to raise their sails and be open to it so they get a boost from the wind. I love that, because that's exactly what I did, and exactly what the book shows you how to do is how to raise your sails so you can take advantage of the way life is already blowing.
And that's what, if there's one thing that I feel we all could want more of in life right now is a bit more control. Is a bit a feeling of like, oh, I can actually create this. I can control something, because often, it can feel at times that things are out of our control, or that it's just the cosmic weather, or it's just, it's just the stars for me right now, or my signs. If you get your chart read or whatnot, they're saying it's a really bad time for you right now. And what I love that this book really speaks to is that you really do have the ability to take a look at what's blocking you, how to release it, how to align, how to raise your sails and move forward with the winds of luck at your back. And that is awesome. So, Gay Hendricks, thank you for the man you are, for the message you give to the world, for the good work and creativity that you bring. And thank you for this book, Conscious Luck. So for everyone watching, I encourage you right now, don't wait, don't give in to delay. Click the link right now, grab this book, go to consciousluck.com. We're going to post links here for you to be able to click on. So click that link, go grab that book. You'll get the meditations, and this very well be the most important book you read all year. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. I appreciate you and wishing you amazing conscious luck in your life. Take care.